Well, it's early and the birds are out. The sun's not out yet, but that's a good thing. So last year when we were gardening, watering became a big problem, especially in the middle of summer. So we bought some drip tubing, and then we realized it was probably too late in the season to put it in because all the plants were sort of established. So this year we're going to try to beat the game, and we're going to try to get some drip tubing in. So let's get into this. So we got the raised beds behind me. Let's look at it and see what we need to do with this drip tubing. So this system's going to start out with a timer that goes to a pressure regulator to lower the water pressure, and then into this hose. And if we were to follow the hose, we go to 1 bed, 2 beds, 3 beds, 4 beds. And there's really not a whole lot of hose there, to be honest. But hopefully we've got enough to get it going. Now we decided that we wanted the drip tubing to come up inside of each bed. So after we thought about it, we decided we probably wanted something that would allow us to turn the water on and off, because we might not have something growing in a bed all year long. We might harvest something and it might be a few weeks before we put something else in. So we need to add a valve, a shut-off valve to each one. So let's take the drip tubing and some of the other stuff over to a table and we'll assemble that. I really like this table to work at, and I think one of our DIY projects is making me a chair that's the right height. If I stand, I'm too tall, and if I sit down, I'm too low. So the drip tube and all of this was in our first kit that I bought last year, and it was, I want to say, $27. It's got plenty of the drip tubing. It's got spray nozzles. We decided that these were for hanging things, and we're not going to have anything hanging. So I know we're not going to use that. We're probably not going to use these. These are little end caps that go for this tubing. And we might end up using some of these. I'm not sure how those are going to work out for us. And then I ordered this. This came yesterday, and I want to say it was like $15 or $18. Watch out for the noise. It would appear these drip irrigation systems have 2 ways for the connections to be made. Either there's a mechanical connection where you push the tube on and something screws on it to hold it in place, or a friction connection where the tubing is so tight that when you force it over the piece, it stays in place just because of the friction that it involves. All of the brown pieces are friction connections, and they didn't work, and we'll get to that. But we're going to move on to me trying to route the water from the hose to the beds. I chose to put it underground so I wouldn't have to worry about it freezing, and then bring it up through the corner of the bed. We dug a little trench. This would be my granddaughter and I, and fed the line through. She used some zip ties, and we tied it to the water line to make sure that it stayed in place and was out of the way. And then we went ahead and put it in the ground and covered it up. And it wasn't until we had it covered up that I realized how pliable that tubing was. And I was afraid that just the weight of the earth would cause the tubing to collapse. So we dug it back up and we routed the tubing through a PVC pipe. And I'll do this between each one of the raised beds. And here I'm attaching the water cutoff and backfilling the dirt. And I'll cut another piece of PVC pipe to run the tubing to the next bed. Once I had the main line in this next bed, I capped it off and we turned the water on, and it kept blowing the brown connectors off of the tubing. So to be honest, I can't remember where I left off. All I know is we had tried to make some of these with the valve, and we put them on, and as soon as we turned the water pressure on, they just popped off. So these aren't going to work, which forced me to buy another drip irrigation set. And we ordered 10 of these. a T and we ordered 10 corners. And then a whole nother kit. So why don't I put the camera so you're looking at the table, and we'll go ahead and build some more of these and see where we can get today. Let's see what's in this kit. So we got more and more. We've got plenty of these. Definitely wanted these. And that's why I got this kit, is because it had these type of connectors. And some more drip tubing. We've got a picture that gives you ideas on how you might want to hook it up. And we've got explanations on what these pieces are and a guide to use them. Just for reference, this additional drip irrigation system and the 2 different kinds of couplings I bought were $58. So the only thing I know for sure is at the rate I'm going to lose money. I didn't realize that these were smaller. You see that? What a bummer. That is definitely a smaller tube. Things that make you want to go, So I should be able to show you this once and you guys understand it. You just cut the tubing to the length it needs to be and you force it over one end of these connectors. And then you screw tight this other piece. And that locks the two together. And that's all there is to these. Push it in hard. Screw it tight. And obviously I cut that piece of tubing as short as possible because I wanted it to be all together. You do have to make sure that the connectors are lined up where you want them to be once you tighten them up. So now that you've seen how the mechanical connections work, let's fast forward to where I've actually got something done. Yeah. This is my proof of concept, so to speak. I will make a couple more of these. I really decided to tighten these mechanical fasteners down, and I used a pair of pliers for that. So most of the cutoff valves I had were friction connections, and I used zip ties to ensure they wouldn't come off. My next dilemma was what to do with the additional drip irrigation system I ordered that had a smaller tube. And after a bunch of research, I realized that there were some reducers that I could buy, and I will show those shortly. So it's been a couple days since I stopped working on the drip tubing because I didn't have enough parts to get 4 small beds done. And it's got to be quite irritating, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. I ordered a kit that came with materials, and it was a good start, but the tubing they sent me wouldn't even go across 4 beds. So I decided I would order some more. And then I ordered a kit like this and another kit that had more stuff in it. And then when I put the tubing on and turned the water pressure on, it just popped it off, which made it useless. So I decided I was going to go back to these type connectors that lock the tubing on. So I ordered some more connectors and another kit. And even though the first kit I ordered was 1/2-inch tubing and the second kit I ordered said 1/2-inch tubing, can you see the difference? I don't know why, but this 1/2-inch tubing is not the same as the first, which meant once again I had ordered something I couldn't use. So our easy little drip tube project has turned into a big problem. And what was going to be a cheap, inexpensive solution to watering the plants is not as cheap anymore. But that's not totally the point. The point is that they sell you these kits and they're really not enough to do what you want to do unless you have maybe 2 plants. So I ordered 100 feet of tubing because that seemed like the right thing to do since the first kit came with 39 feet and 39 feet didn't go anywhere. And I hope now we're caught up. We're caught up to the point where I can start working again. So I left off with these and I decided I was going to use the accessories that came with the smaller tubing. So I went out and ordered some more stuff, and I ordered enough plugs that I could plug something up. And I ordered these cute little adapters that are meant for I want to say sprinkler systems, but in theory I should be able to shark bite this end into a tube that's there, and it should reduce it so that I can use this tube, if that makes any sense. Now we need to get this on it, but we want to get that close. So out of our 4 raised beds, not all of them have plants. So we're not ready for the drip emitters in those raised beds yet. These will connect to the main water lines and have the shutoff valve for each one of the raised beds. These should work like a shark bite, if I'm not mistaken. That's it. I believe shark bites is a manufacturing name, but it's a type of plumbing connection that you push on. The nice part is they're spring loaded. You just push that if you want it to come off. Let's make these about the same because we want everything to be uniform. Because I'm just that way. OCD, whatever it is. I wanted you guys to see how I'm putting all these pieces together, so that way you'll have an idea how they connect when you try it. There's one on. And there's 2 on. With any luck, when I get to the raised beds and get the line buried, this should speed up the process a lot once I actually get to putting these into the raised beds. I will finish this off by putting an end plug on these so that we can turn the water on and check for leaks. Gotta remember to put these on first. Of course, I was fixing to cut it, so I don't think it would have mattered. Okay, that's on tight. And if this works right, I should be able to slide that in. And that should hold it in place. Watertight, if I am not mistaken. Okay, there's that. I'm trying to do as much in the shade as I can because I know I'm going to get in the sun and it's going to be hot. Now I need 2 plugs. Okay, these are going to be my 2 plugs for the end. And these should fit in here. Like that. A zip tie around the end. As tight as I can get it. I don't trust that the water pressure won't push these plugs out, so I'm going to zip tie them in. Okay, we've got 2 plugs. And I've got a box of these now. So if you've made it this far, you probably like the kind of content that's on this channel. So think about subscribing. So the still image you're looking at now, along with the next one, are images of how we're going to lay out our drip tubing in these beds. I just wanted to give you an idea of where we're going so you understood what we were putting together on the table. I'm probably going to make some more mistakes along the way, and hopefully that'll be a good thing because we'll be able to learn from them. The larger set came with this, which meant you could put this in a bed and have stuff going off each side. The smaller ones didn't, so I'm going to have to double up something like that. So I need to make sure I have that on, and then I can push this in. You can see the way these work. These go in, and then this clamps right there and holds it tight. Otherwise it would pop off, right? I think you guys have seen me put these together enough to have a good understanding how they work. So to keep this video short, what I'll do is I will just show you the finished product instead of me putting together each individual piece. And it took 2 of those to make that. And this is how I'll stop the water flow. I'll go from these connectors that have the drip emitters to a 1/2-inch tube to a reducing connector that'll go to a 1/4 inch tube with a plug on it. And that will stop the water. These main water line assemblies with the red shutoff valve will go in my large oval raised bed and my large circular raised bed. Okay, the way these are going to work is it's going to be like that. Okay, now that we've done all that, let's undo some of that. After setting those assemblies in the raised beds and thinking about how the drip tubing would run with the water emitters, I decided I did not like what I had done. One thing nice about these connectors, if you don't like the way you've done it, you can just unscrew them and rearrange them. Alright, we should have the valve assembly come up here. We're just going to do one long one. Pushed in is what happens to them. Like that. And then in theory, this is just going to do a big loop. Anywhere we want a water plant, we'll just splice it and put a watering tap. Now we can move on to the large oval bed to see if we've got it set up right. All right, now we only have 2 plants in here. So I've cut a piece that's going to be able to be split in the middle. That should be the 1 gallon per hour water emitter. The drip irrigation kits came with a pretty good bit of 1/4 inch tubing. So the nice thing is, if we do change things up, we can always just rearrange that 1/4 drip tubing and the emitters to suit whatever plants might be there in the future. Each of the 2 long narrow beds will be done the same way. There'll be a 1/4 inch tubing that makes a loop at each end. When this was done, there was no plants in the bed. But when we do add the plants, all we'll have to do is just cut the tubing and add an emitter where the plant would be. Okay, it's time to shift gears a little bit. In the beginning of this video, we were putting together some drip tubing and we were digging a trench to run the water lines. And we realized real quick we didn't have enough tubing and we sort of stopped. So let's finish running that water line to all 4 of these raised beds. We're going to continue to run the water lines through a PVC pipe because we were worried about the water line collapsing. Just look how pliable it is after it's been out in the sun for a while. As soon as I get enough dirt out of the way, I'll put my PVC pipe down there, measure it, and we'll get that cut to the right length. Both the first and second drip irrigation kits that I ordered had 39 feet of main line. And 39 feet was not enough to even get to these 4 beds that I've got. So when I went to look to order some more mainline tubing, it turned out to be fairly cost effective just to end up getting a roll of 100 foot for $31. So that's what I chose to do. And if we end up running more lines anywhere else, I won't have to worry about not having enough. Having already placed these drip tubing valve assemblies in the beds, all I have to do is just connect the drip line to it. I was worried about the line kinking where the drip line entered the PVC pipe, so I ended up putting a 90-degree elbow where the drip tubing entered the PVC pipe. Once I had the connector tightened up, I covered up that end with dirt and moved to the other end. I took a rough measurement and cut off the excess tubing before I started to dig back the dirt to feed the tubing up from underneath in the raised bed. Then we'll hook the tubing up to the assembly that was made earlier and ensure that the connection is tight. You can see where the PVC pipe is shorter and there's not a pinch point for the tubing coming up into the bed. That's why I chose not to put on a 90-degree connector. Now I will feed up another line to go to the next raised bed, connect it to this drip assembly, fill the dirt back in and level it out, do a little straightening up of this drip assembly, and move on to finishing that trench that goes to the next raised bed. I came across a couple of tree roots and found an easy solution to getting them out of the way. I just used the grinder with a cutoff wheel. I realized since this is the last bed, I didn't need to have a T connection and have a way for the water to keep going to something else. So I'll end up swapping out that T with another 90-degree elbow. Sweetie. I'll lay down a piece of PVC pipe so I can see how long it needs to be, and then I'll go ahead and cut it off. The drip line will get pushed through the PVC pipe, And then we'll shove the drip line up through the raised bed and get it connected to that valve assembly. I had this valve assembly the way I wanted it, and then I thought to myself, maybe I should try to wash all the dirt out that might have got in the lines as I was pushing things around. So that's what I did. I went and turned on the water, flushed out the dirt, and then connected it back up. So I figured out why I had two different sizes of tubing when I ordered those drip irrigation kits. That was because they were measuring the inside diameter of the tube on one kit and the outside of the diameter of the tube on the other kit. So just be aware of that when you order these parts for these drip irrigation systems. Okay, finally something went right. We got all the drip tubing run and we got the water to the beds. I just need to get the plants in there so we can put those drip emitters on them. Let's see what we got ready the other day. The small tubing only has those push-on type connectors. Okay, that's our 1 gallon per minute emitter, already on a T. I don't know if it's true or not, but they said if you do a loop, you're supposed to have better water flow as opposed to if you just had it going out and stopping. In theory, you just cut them, poke them in. I was surprised the amount of pressure you had to use to get the tubing onto these connectors. And it should be positioned in such a way that the water comes out straight towards the base of the plant. Just like that. Yeah, you just cut the tubing and push in the emitter and you're done. So how about if we speed this process up a little bit? All right, we have turned the water on.
That one's spraying out the backside.
Drip tubing success. We had two of these 1 gallon per minute drip emitters that were bad right out of the bag. Don't know, we just replaced them and kept going. Well, there it is, guys. We've got it done. The biggest frustration really and the most time was just ordering something, waiting for a couple days for it to come in, and then ordering something else and waiting a couple more days. I know my wife is glad to have this done. And once you're at this point, it's easy. It really is easy. So the drip tubing is done. I think we spent too much on it. Probably about $100, $120. But in a way, if they had sent me to school and I had to pay for a class on how to do drip tubing, it would have cost more than 120 bucks. And now I know pretty much how it works and what to expect. And the foundation's laid, so in the future it should just be easier because I know what I'm doing in theory. And maybe now you know what you're doing in theory by watching me make all my mistakes. Well, like always, like, subscribe, check out the playlist. And I'll see you in that next video.